This is the best build in D4 right now.
Nice.
With a huge margin. Speedrunning tier 130s, one-tapping Ubers in a 4-man group, hitting for trillions upon trillions of damage. And Kim Jong-un brought the build all the way to tier 50, clearing it in less than 7 minutes, making it top the D4 leaderboards, only being surpassed by Elon Musk himself. This, my friends, is the Bloodwave Cringelord. Now, while this build may seem completely brain-dead, as it indeed is when speed farming, it's actually insanely fun when you decide to pit push with it. And that is a beauty. You can make the build as easy or as difficult as you want to play it. We recently covered a starter variant here for the shitty dad gamers, and it's now time for you to take the next step towards the end game. Because that's what we'll focus on in this video. The endgame version, when you've started obtaining your Ubers, got your gear masterworked, and being ready to blast. There's also a next step in the progression curve if you want to start farming Pit 150s, where I'll leave a link to King Pig and Lord X Sara's builds, as you'll want to go for that, if Pit is your type of thing, and of course the starter version, where I explain all the interactions making the build function. This build, however, is what you want to be running for 99% of all content, as it's silky smooth. Alright, with that out of the way, let's focus on the build at hand, shall we? What has changed since we last met each other? Well, shit, a lot. Previously, we focused on utilizing Bloodlance to gather blood orbs, which we in turn used to both reset the cooldown of our blood wave and overpower. That is no longer the case, because with sufficient health and cooldown reduction, you only need to gather 2 or 3 blood orbs to do all of that at once, which is easily done. Therefore, we're ditching the Bloodlance and simply running over 2 orbs, followed by moving on to the next pack and dropping a blood wave on their sorry asses. When speedrunning, that's basically all you need to do. Run around, drop a blood wave, and keep moving. All the other skills are mainly there for decoration, unless you're doing something actually difficult, of course. Because on our bars, we find corpse tendrils for pulling in enemies, as well as corpse explosion, reap, and blight to gain a bunch of damage multipliers, which, as you can clearly see, is not really needed here. And of course, blood mist, which we can of course use whenever we're in deep shit and crowd controlled. Other than that, though, the playstyle is mainly the same as in the previous version. The same cannot be said about the gear and aspects, though. So let's check those out, shall we? So you know exactly what you're looking for. And starting us right off, you're going to want to get yourself a lovely Air of Perdition. This thing is just disgusting. It instantly solves your crit chance, allowing you to get upwards of 100% crit with ease. And if that wasn't enough, it also allows you to reach 200 movement speed no problemo and grants you a huge 60% damage multiplier. Next up is the Shroud of False Death. Same here, pretty much a must-have if you want to deal big damn. It has everything you may want: max life, which goes directly into your overpower damage, defensives and cooldown reduction, while at the same time providing you with a buttload of all stats to solve all those Paragon nodes, and most importantly, the one-to-all passives for a humongous fucking damage boost. For the gloves, same here as before. The ultimate shadow turns our blood wave into a darkness skill, so we can utilize a bunch of damage multipliers in the skill tree. You'll also keep masterworking the damage while fortified, as it boosts your blood wave 5 rank passive and a chance to freeze. And why chance to freeze? Well, shit, because Terror is a pretty good passive, granting you 18% damage when both of the passives are online, and Freeze so happens to both chill and freeze at the same time, so that shit's solved easy. For the Pantaloonies, we're going with Kesami's Legacy. Now, ideally, you would get a double GA here and masterwork the blood wave damage, but to make it easier for you, I personally went with the blood wave cooldown reduction, as the double GA costs a shit ton of gold. And the reason you would want a double GA is that you would then free up a tempering slot on your weapon for the Titan's Fall passive, granting a huge multiplier. Because if you get Blood Wave chance to deal double damage close to 100% on the Pantaloonies, then you won't need it on the weapon. Should make sense, right? Yeah. But you also need a bunch of cooldown reduction, so there comes the dilemma that can only really be solved by getting a double GA. Anyhow, on to the sneakers. Aspect of the Cursed Aura allows us to spread Decrepify like AIDS, while at the same time not having to actually press the skill. Other than that though, focus on the movement speed and intelligence to become fast as fuckboy, and this is also where you'll slap on an armor roll to sort that shit out. Alright, and then the weapon. Here, you'll temper Blood Wave deals double damage if you don't have a double GA Pantaloonies, while at the same time focusing on damage while fortified. The reason we want a two-hander is then due to the tidal wave aspect being absolutely broken, granting 480% damage when on a two-hander. And that, my friends, that's just disgusting. Now a hugely important heads up here as well. You must get a two-handed mace. And why is that? Well, shit. Because it's the slowest of the weapons. And you can't spam your Blood Wave, meaning attack speed won't be an issue. The damage difference between a two-handed mace and the other weapons are actually substantial, so don't sleep on the maces, man. And finally, the jewelry. Here we are focusing on coalesced blood and tides of blood if you're able to get both of them. If not, then just focus on coalesced blood and of course intelligence. Those are the most important ones. And make sure to temper ultimate cooldown reduction on your jewelry. You need to get it as close to 75% as possible when the weird-ass cooldown reduction calculation has done its thing. If you don't math, then that is indeed fine. Just take a look at your Blood Wave cooldown and see when you're not reducing its cooldown anymore, LOL. And when it comes to the rings, we're using the Fast Blood aspect to reduce our cooldown of Blood Wave and Vehement Brawler's aspect for Big Damn. The Fast Blood aspect is the main difference between this version and the pit-pushing version, in combination with requiring a double GA Pantaloony to save a tempering slot. Because if you are able to ditch the Fast Blood aspect, then you're saving up an aspect. This in combination with the save temper can easily double, if not triple, your damage, but it comes at a great cost, and that is making the build more difficult to play, as you'll rely on lucky hits to reduce your cooldowns then. But for that build, I'm leaving you over to another video as we're running out of time. Hell, it's already skill tree a fucking clock, and you know it, baby. Starting us right off, we're grabbing Reap here, simply because we need something, and we may as well grab a Darkness skill for the damage bonus. Next, we head on over to grab Hued Flesh, which will spawn a buttload of corpses for us, seeing as Blood Wave has a huge lucky hit multiplier. Here we also have Blight, which when we throw one out, grants us an additional 20% damage. Lovely. After that, we head on down to grab Blood Mist for the survivability, along with a bunch of damage passives and Corpse Explosion, which we're going to use to spend corpses along with turning it into a Darkness skill for more damage via Reaper's Pursuit. Here is also where you find Titan's Fall, which you can temper on your weapon if you get your Blood Wave damage capped on the Pantaloonies. Next, we head on over to the Curse skills, grab some damage multipliers along with Decrepify for Abhorrent Decrepify and the damage reduction. And remember, we don't actually cast this piece of shit skill. The boots does it for us. After that, we find a huge amount of damage multipliers that we obviously want because Big Damn equals Big Dick, along with Corpse Tendril for the statewide pull-in. In the ultimate tree, we then find a bunch of lovely damage and defensive passives, and also our Blood Wave. 5 ranks is what we want for it to scale via damage, while healthy and damage while fortified, making these stats highly valuable, along with Prime Blood Wave for damage reduction, and of course, Supreme Blood Wave, which is how we spawn our blood orbs. And why do we want blood orbs again? Correct, my beautiful friend. To reduce our blood wave cooldown, but also to utilize Rathma's Vigor. Because it so happens that when we pick up blood orbs and heal ourselves, we reduce the cooldown of this thing, allowing us to overpower each cast as long as we eat the blood orbs being farted out of our enemies' assholes. Alright, and that, my friends, was the skill tree completed with ease. Let's check out all the nitty-gritty details now, and after that, we'll finish this lovely build off with the Paragons and how to play. And with the nitty-gritty details, I'm of course talking about all the powers, gems, runes, and more. Hell, a lot to keep track of this season. When it comes to the runes here, we're first rocking Igni in combination with Cax. This allows us to generate Offering and unleash it on our blood wave, making it deal double damage every now and then. Unfortunately, you would need to actually keep track of this thing to spend it on a blood wave and not waste it on your other skills. But when you're speedrunning, you're only casting blood waves anyways, meaning this shit solves itself. For the other rune combo, we have Zan, which we combine with Exal, simply to reduce the cooldown of Rathma's Vigor via more max life, while at the same time granting us some defensives and damage. Regarding the witch powers, this is what I'm currently rocking. For your unique power, it doesn't matter at all which ones you grab, but if you want to rock Piranhado, then you need to ditch one of your non-auras to also grab a Hex, or else it won't work. The other powers are way more important though. We have Soul Harvest, which grants a huge damage multiplier via Intelligence. Aura Specialization for the crit damage when combined with Aura of Siphoning, or any other aura for that matter. I personally like this one as it doesn't fuck off to Narnia when I'm farming, and instead stays with me. We have Breath of the Covent, which doesn't help us at all with damage, but it helps us massively when it comes to pit pushing and spamming corpse explosions, as well as reduce the animation of Blood Wave, and finally Purging Touch, which grants us 40% damage for our Eldritch powers, which will require Voice of the Stars to utilize as it turns your Blood Wave into an Eldritch skill when used. Other than that though, we're using Wicked Pact to boost aforementioned gem, and finally Toadling's Wish as to gain a bit of additional damage. Absolutely lovely. Alright, and next on the agenda, we have the Book of the Dead. What are we getting here? Yeah, a fuckton of damage of course. The minions are getting the wet fart treatment, and we're throwing them in the meat grinder to pick up shadow damage via the Skelly Boys, overpower via the mages, and finally, we're sacrificing our best friend, the Iron Golem, for his crit damage. Sad, but it had to be done. The guy fucked my wife anyways, so who cares? Served him right. For our mercenary, Subo is the fucking man, providing us with wall hack and a bunch of damage of crit damage via opening fire. Thank you, Subo. For the reinforcement, we'll utilize Raher for the bastion and survivability. Hey, will you look at that? We are almost done with the guide now. Nicely done. Let's check out the Paragons now, shall we? And we'll see what the hell I've done to that thing. In the starting board, we have the Imbiber glyph. The reason we want this is twofold. We have damage while healthy, which goes directly into the blood wave multiplier, and, well, damage while healthy, but as a multiplicative damage. This will in turn allow it to double dip, both boosting the ultimate and our other damage multipliers, so we definitely want to max this thing out. After that, we head on up to grab Bloodbath, which is by far the best node in the entire game, in my opinion, granting a disgusting overpowered damage bonus and a blood bonus on top of that. Makes sense, I guess. Here I'm also using Sacrificial to boost the nearby magic nodes, which just so happens to have a bunch of damage while fortified and overpower, which is exactly what we want. We then head on over to the Blood Begets Blood board, grab the legendary node for a buttload of damage, and socket Gravekeeper with ease. It both grants a huge multiplier and it boosts the nearby nodes for a massive multiplier as well. Yummers. Now, if you have Shroud of False Death, it doesn't matter where the hell you go because you'll get all the nodes anyways, but if you may as well go up here for Frailty. It grants damage to cursed enemies, which we indeed like, and Essence for its damage multiplier. And finally, Flesh Eater. This is the reason we want to keep eating those corpses with our corpse explosion and finally dominate, for the humongous overpower damage it provides. Lovely indeed. Well damn, Paragon's complete. Are you still with me? I sure hope so, because it's time to get good now, and you sure as hell don't want to miss that. Alright, so the basic playstyle when speed farming is simple. You drop down a blood wave, pick up a few blood orbs and repeat. You can see the overpower counter here. Once it's stacked up to 15 and your blood wave is off cooldown, that's go time, baby. Now, if you're doing any kind of pushing, however, then you may have to put your big boy pants on and do some actual work, because the other skills are not used simply for decoration anymore. Instead, you would do this. Go full out fucking kamikaze on their sorry asses and drop a blood wave on their face. Your lucky hits will go off like crazy, spawning a gazillion corpses. And that is exactly what we need. You will now pull the enemies in via corpse tendrils. Once that is done, it's time to stack up your damage multipliers. Throw a blight in their face and spam your corpse explosions when your blood wave is off cooldown. This will allow you to keep your damage multipliers up and in turn, a huge DPS increase. This thing right here also tells you when your offering is stored up enough for you to blow shit up with your blood wave. So that's the perfect time to press it, to double its damage. Other than that, you have Reap, which you can indeed use if you wish, but I'm way too lazy for that. And in case you're in trouble, Blood Mist is there to save you. And that, my friends, is all for this one. Drop a sub, have a good one, and I'll see you later, kings.